tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
So guys, one could say that heads rolled on this latest episode of Z Nation. I will boo that
literally.
Later. I will boo that later.
Literally.
Hey Z Nation fans, welcome to another episode of the Z Nation AfterBuzz After Show. Today we are talking about Season 2, Episode 13, Adios Muchachos. How are we all doing tonight?
Awesome. Well, my head is connected to my shoulders, so I'm feeling pretty good.
All right. I'm good.
That is definitely a plus. So, guys, let me introduce my fantastic panel. To my left, Katie Cullen.
Hi, all my buddies. You can find me on Twitter at Kiaxet, Kiaxet. I'm also checking the hashtag ABTVZNation and the live chat. So, if you got something fun to say, throw it in there. You may get a shout out.
Michelle Cullen.
Hello, everyone. You can find me on Twitter at Michelle_Cullen. I am rocking my brand new Z Nation hat today, and I'm very excited.
It does.
I don't even have that hat. I keep asking for that hat. I keep not getting it.
Believe me, she won't have it for long either.
Oh, no, this is mine.
It does look real snazzy.
It does.
Joining us in the studio again is our wonderful, wonderful special guest, Jen Derwingson. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. Thank you for having me again.
Thanks for coming.
My Twitter and Instagram, although I'm pathetic at Instagram, but they're both at Jen Elder, JenLDER.
And I'm your guys' host, Megan Salinas. You guys can tweet at me directly at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin. So yeah, this was a fun, crazy episode. What are your guys' initial thoughts on the end of this two-parter?
El Caminos, man. El Caminos.
El Caminos were pretty great.
10K's final moment, just so fantastic.
That was great. I really enjoyed. I love it when series do this, where not only does part 1 have really good build-up, but part 2 has really good delivery. It's one of the most disappointing things when a show does a two-parter and the first part is really good, and then the second part is just real lackluster. And I really, really enjoyed this.
So, Doctor Who, then?
Yeah. Anybody who watches Doctor Who, you can probably guess which two-parters we're talking about.
Anyway.
But, Jen, you wrote not only this episode, but the episode prior to this one, this two-parter. This one must have been a lot of fun to write because there's a lot going on. Were you worried about being able to get everything across? Because not only do we have a lot of different themes going on, but there's a lot of plot to cram into these two episodes as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was the main challenge was in the first episode to get everything set up and still keep it interesting and fun and dramatic.
Sorry, guys, we have a moth in our studio.
He's sitting on my lap now, so it's fine. But yeah, there was a lot going on, a lot of moving parts, and especially there was a lot of payoff to a lot of things going on in the season, like what was going on with Vasquez the whole time. Now we know, and now he gets to do something about it that might jeopardize the mission. And then on top of that, there's his relationship with Warren. There's, what's going on with Murphy and Dr.
That's the
Kurian.
whole series, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. And Dr. Kurian, and what are they really up to, and is it going to work? I think I think it's in there. I've seen so many versions of it, but there's a point where the rest of the team is going, "What's going on?" And Warren just says, Murphy. It's basically that line of like, it's gonna go wrong. He has a plan.
Murphy's Law. That's
Murphy's Law.
Quite literally.
Whatever plan he has is not going to go exactly according to plan. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, there's a lot of stuff. What was your favorite plot point to address this episode? Because as you said, we've got El Scorpion things going on. We have Vasquez's story. We've got different relationships going on. What was the highlight for you writing about in these 2 episodes?
I really enjoyed writing for Emilio Rivera for A Scorpion. The sort of monologue that I wrote for him when he's talking to Vasquez in the sort of zombie Iron Maiden about his whole story and how he got to the place that he is one of my favorite things that I've written. And Emilio really kind of knocked it out of the park, and it was based a lot, some of what I knew about him and my own experience and putting it together, and and then the 2 of them on set during those torture scenes was just like super intense, and I think Matt Cedeno finally got to do a lot of really interesting stuff in this episode, and when those 2 are confronting each other, it was amazing and really kind of fun, and it's fight choreography, but there were points, and I was tweeting about this Friday night, that in the final fight scene outside the wall, we have a fight choreographer, the stunt coordinator was there, they were shooting it, and there was one hit, I can't remember, that they weren't quite getting right, and Emilio just says to Matt, "Just hit me, bro." Just hit me. And that's the kind of dude he is. He's a very committed actor.
I can take it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Vasquez in this episode, because he gets pulled from the jaws of death at the very beginning, and then proceeds to basically be confronting El Scorpion, and that's the majority of him. This episode is the 2 of these actors interacting, and it is just fascinating to watch. And I will say, it got under my skin that El Scorpion had an Iron Maiden, like a zombie-esque Iron Maiden. That, to me, was one of the most unsettling things we've seen in the zombie apocalypse.
Oh, that was fantastic.
It did not surprise me.
Oh, so good. Just like one more turn and you literally your face off. Like, okay, yeah, no. I really did like I don't die, I kill. But I did automatically subtitle it with "I live, I die, I live again." Just like, yep.
The Furiosa episode was a couple episodes
I don't
ago.
care. This is still wonderful. Can we get the live chat up, please? So yeah, that was one of my favorite little bits.
Cool. That's awesome.
How about you, Michelle? This must be hard for you.
I am sad. I am. Before the episode aired, I actually tweeted out, if a Scorpion could just live to the end of the season, I think everyone would be okay with that. Okay, thanks.
Oh, no.
Okay, thanks, bye.
I kind of did that knowing that it wasn't going to go that way, and then I finally watched the episode, and I was like, oh, darn it. Because he comes out at the end, and I was like, maybe there's a standoff, and they run away and escape, and he'll come back up in the last episode. But I do appreciate how it was written and how it ended, because I think it needed to close at the end of that episode. So
the hatch door did indeed close.
The hatch door closed, but it's still not the end of the season. That's all I'll say.
You can never trust a show where there's a hatch involved.
There's
No.
absolutely not.
Anything can happen underneath a hatch. That's
so true.
Just don't know.
And we did see that Dr. Kurian is still kicking around, such as it is.
Getting kicked
along with
around.
Larry.
I was going to say, he's not kicking. That is the opposite of what
He's
he's
Jan in the Pan. I'm so happy.
Oh, goodness.
Every time I can make a stupid Jan in the Pan joke, I'm thrilled. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, there's a Mystery Science Theater episode called The Brain That Wouldn't Die. And there's one point where they are keeping a woman's head alive in a cookie sheet with wires, because this was sci-fi in the 50s. And they go around calling her Jan in the Pan. So that's what he is. He's Jan in the Pan. I love it.
All right.
Yeah, that is something that indeed did happen in this episode.
I'm so happy.
I do want to go back to the story of how El Scorpion became El Scorpion, and there was a really good line in there, everyone has an apocalypse. And that was... First of all, I want to know whether or not his backstory had been decided way, way, way before this episode was penned on paper, or if that was just something you kind of came up with to make the character even more compelling than he already is.
So it was, we needed to have the moment. It was actually something Carl Schaefer, the showrunner, asked me to do, was kind of give him this moment. I mean, in one way, it's like, a Bond, supervillain moment where I'm like, I'm about to kill you. Now I'm going to tell you. Now I'm going to tell you all the reasons why. But also, it was a moment where we wanted to know more about him and humanize him a little bit, and not just make him this two-dimensional villain, but find out where he got to that place. And we hadn't talked about it before this episode, but I talked about it with Carl when I was up there working on the episode, and it was just, from what I used to work with this theater group that does workshops at Juvenile Hall, and now works with different incarcerated youth and at-risk youth, and does these theater workshops. They're called The Unusual Suspects. Give them a little shout out because they're awesome. And just working with these kids, and who all didn't expect to live to be 18, and how they got to be in juvenile hall, all accused of murder or attempted murder under the age of 18. And so I knew all of their stories. I knew a little bit about Emilio's own story, which if you ever get him on here, you got to talk to him about it because it's amazing. And so I just kind of incorporated all of that into this guy who was, this gangster, but how did he get there? Yeah.
Everybody has a story, and I liked that it was solidified in that line of everybody has an apocalypse. Bad guys. Even when we were talking to the actor who plays Dr. Kurian on the phone a couple weeks ago, he was even saying that Dr. Kurian, wasn't always a bad guy. Back in the day, he was in it for the science. At some point,
backstory for Dr. Kurian is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
I was wondering if that specific tattoo was kind of you and Emilio working together, because that is a real tattoo that he has of his son, or if you knew that he had that and you kind of wrote around it, or...
That was something, it's not a real tattoo. It was created by our but that's good. It's a good sign. It was created by our makeup artist. It is actually, she used a photograph of Emilio's son to do that. So, and I that was his request he said, I want to do this, and we're having this tattoo, and he had talked to Corinne Foster, our lead makeup artist, about doing it, and we all thought it was a great idea. So it's a little Easter egg for some people to see who it is.
Shout out to Corinne.
Yeah,
that was really good.
No, Corinne's awesome. Yeah.
It looks
so it's
real.
A fake tattoo of Emilio's son.
Of his real son.
Of his real son. Yeah,
that's what I said the first time, Katie.
Because we needed the tattoo to be very specific and recognizable, so that because it was the device by which Vasquez recognizes him.
Yeah, and it probably helps to have it as a family member so that he has something to pull for his performance too.
Yeah.
That was really great. So when somehow, first of all, El Scorpion tried to throw Warren under the bus, even when he failed to get the information that he wanted. On the one hand, I wasn't surprised by, because this is a guy that murders, wives and children, and doesn't give it a second thought, and sure enough, doesn't remember it when it happens.
But for me, it was Tuesday.
That's exactly I quoted last week. I wasn't surprised when he tried to throw Warren under the bus. I was a little bit surprised when it didn't turn out that, because I thought you guys were going for a twist with, because every time Vasquez and El Scorpion were talking, they kept cutting away to what I assumed was El Scorpion's right-hand woman. They kept cutting away to her specifically, especially during this backstory of El Scorpion.
You killed my daughter, prepare to die.
And I almost thought for a minute that it was going to turn out to be that was Vasquez's daughter. And then it didn't pan out that way at all. Because I was like, this is the third or fourth time they cut to her. She must be significant in some way.
So those are some really interesting editing. We watched it together. I was like, yeah, I bet that would be her. That would be so awesome. Oh, I guess not. Then why did they edit it like that? We're all confused.
That's an Abram Cox
See,
question.
and I kind of took it because I watched it twice. I watched it last night and then again this morning just for the refresher. And I thought that too the first time, and then the second time I watched it, I think it was kind of to illustrate the indifference at which the Zeros feel when they're witnessing torture.
Yes.
Like, she was totally comfortable with it. I also think, I'd have to go back and look again to look closer, but there might have been some transition to Murphy's control in the makeup
Yeah,
shifts.
there was.
Oh.
There
So,
was. It
you
was.
kind of get
It was a
hints.
nice before and after.
Yeah.
But I will say that I was a little not disappointed. That's the wrong word. I hate being wrong. I make a prediction. That's more. That's more
I was
what it
a
is.
little disappointed that it wasn't her. Although I agree with you, she really looked like she needed popcorn. Just like, yep, this sure is happening.
Speaking of popcorn, the very opening scene where Murphy is in fact just enjoying a bowl
Eating
of popcorn and
popcorn.
some wine.
And some wine. He's having his Olivia Pope moment.
Oh, it's so
Yeah.
great.
No, he's having a ball just watching Dr. Curry and try to scurry out of this situation. This little hole he's dug for himself. It is just hilarious.
Well, and Warren threw him in there just with the, I don't trust him. Like, that is enough to stop the entire operation in its tracks. Like,
That was some good, quick thinking.
that was some incredibly good quick thinking.
I loved this exchange. Just this opening scene. I was a little confused as to why they were so willing, because the whole point of using Vasquez was in case it didn't work, no big deal. So I was a little bit thrown off by how quickly they were able to turn the tables in so that the situation would be in their favor. But I will say that I absolutely loved the exchange between Murphy and Warren. Without any words, just they can tell when something's not on the level, and it was, and work with it and be able to roll with it. It was just so fantastic to watch them work off each other.
Well, and I love just how smitten Lorena is with Warren.
Who wouldn't be?
Yeah, point.
Yeah.
From
it's
one
just-
badass woman to another, they get each other.
Yeah.
She's like, you stay with me. This is gonna be wonderful. You're an amazing lady, and I like you. And yeah, the men just don't get it.
And it was just so funny, the look on El Scorpion's face when she's praising Warren. He's like, what?
I
do
loved
so much.
I loved how that was edited when Lorena just starts her little speech and she's like, this one person has done everything, and you see Dr. Curry and you see Murphy, you see El Scorpion, and then she says Lieutenant Roberta Warren. And they're all like, what the hell?
I'm sorry, I was nominated for the Emmy. How did she win?
No, it's so much fun. And probably my favorite line in the entire episode is just when she's a little, I guess, drunk
Out
on
of
the
it.
Murphy serum. And she's like, Armana, come drink with me. That was just my favorite.
Just the way that she was sitting on the throne and gesturing,
yeah.
it was great.
It was.
And watching a Scorpion just try to get things back, try to lie about her, he can see this power structure that he has gotten very comfortable with and in which he is almost top dog. He's kind of Lorena's dragon. Start to crumble because these people have come in, and him saying, oh no, they've been government all along, they were going to try to assassinate you, is him going, no, I need that back, maintain the status quo. And then nope. Because
lot of nope.
Murphy saunters in the background. When it's blurry, they don't put a lot of focus on him coming in. So when they actually do get a good shot of him, he's just already there like, hey, buddy. All right.
We have a note on Twitter from Mike at Mike_New York. Murphy controlling Lorena was so funny, especially when she shrugged like, whatevs. She embodied Murphy. That was another hilarious scene. That was fantastic. She is able to channel Keith Allen very, very well.
Yeah. Yeah. She was. Yeah. Gina was having a lot of fun, sort of playing with this character of Lorena and what the effect of the Murphy juice was on her.
Can we call it that?
Can we not?
Is that not the canon name? I mean, does the script say Murphy juice?
That's kind of what we call it.
Hashtag Murphy juice.
Hashtag Murphy
Right.
juice.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Or he cut,
I
there's
say
a point where
drinking
there's a
iced
point.
tea.
There was a line he had that got cut where he's like describing what it is, and he's like it's all organic, artisanally made. Murphy Aid. He's like, maybe I'll call it Murphy Aid instead of Murphy Juice.
I really need this on the blooper reel.
Okay,
Like, I need to witness this line.
It would be, again, especially, and we've talked about this time and time before, but it would be really great to actually get to see the scripts, especially because so much ends up getting cut. I think we were talking to Michael, and he's talked about how, like, some episodes, they cut, like, a half an hour from the rough cut of the episode, and so it's like, I want to see all this stuff that ends up on the cutting room floor. It would just be really exciting. But anyway, I do want to get back to Kurian and Murphy, because theirs has been a very interesting dynamic this whole season. And again, this is one of the things we see come to a head. And as entertaining... God dang it!
You did it on accident.
God dang it.
happy.
I didn't even pick up on that.
By the way,
Katie started laughing.
something like that, exactly like that happened on set in the scene where Lorena comes into the room and finds his head on the floor. Gina Gershon was improvising all these lines, and at one point she says, "You should have quit while you were ahead."
He's no longer ahead of the game.
No,
He stuck his neck out for that one.
Some of you guys might call me out as a hypocrite on this, but I actually do love quoting Austin Powers when there is a scene like this, and I'm like, not a good time to lose one's head? He'll never be the head of a major corporation.
He stuck his neck out for that one.
No, that's enough. That's enough. And that's what's great about that scene.
never enough.
That's what's great about that scene is that he gets cut off, and he's like, okay, yeah, that's enough. That's too much. So I actually do like quoting Austin Powers. It's one of the few things that gets a pun pass for me.
Pun pass. Oh, I'm gonna make those. That sounds fun.
pass.
Like
You
anytime
just
I
have
make
to
a
put it
pun,
down.
I'm just gonna slide it towards you.
I need to save a few of those in reserve.
You guys are gonna lose your pun privileges, the few that I allow.
You do not have the power to take those.
Anyway, let's get back to Dr. Kurian. So I will say that it's kind of disturbing also. There you find out a lot about the Zeros just from the very little things in this episode, like having an Iron Maiden zombie contraption, also having a zombie head in a box for just such an occasion.
Well, they worship Santa Muerte, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
So that's a thing.
But actually, for a moment, it seems as though maybe perhaps they have created the zombie cure when being bitten by a zombie doesn't turn Dr. Kurian into a zombie. And then from there, it's just a slow descent for him as the serum slowly begins to take effect. And Murphy is just having a ball playing Puppet Master, or even when he's like just as a conductor, you can just tell he's having so much fun having power over other people. And I'm looking at him, seeing him do these things, and I'm like, he's a supervillain. It's finally happened. He's become a supervillain.
And we kind of, and I thought this was interesting, seeing, okay, you can control them. Now they've descended into zombie madness. Now they're back to sanity. Can you still control them? And that question was never answered.
That was interesting. I was intrigued that Dr. Kurian was so surprised, because for me it was like, I have no idea what you mixed with his blood, but there was his blood in there. So yeah, you're gonna survive the zombie bite. You're gonna be fine. That's how that works.
You're gonna be okay.
Yeah, it's like a cool magic trick.
Although he did say that he did create some sort of vaccine against the Murphy serum
Antidote
that he created so to counteract the effects, but there's only a certain window of time he has before Murphy can take control of him, and sure enough, Murphy is able to keep control of him so that he doesn't get the chance to administer the serum.
So he tells Murphy that before he administers it, like, okay, buddy, that was not smart.
No, that wasn't.
Good job. Way to be.
But he still knows how to make it, and now, obviously, he and Lorena, having survived this experience, although it's very hard to do so without hands, I was like, he can make another one to conceivably counteract the effects. But where would that leave him? Because he's just a head now.
Yeah, and again, they seem to have come back to some form of sanity. So who even knows? And I wonder if it was all of the Zeros that were injected, or if it was just all those people who happened to be in the room at the time. It's a large operation. It's cross-country, so we could have some back reporting in who are still normal people.
That's a good point.
Very true.
I'm like, I'm writing that down.
And the head of their organization is still alive and kicking, so...
It's accurate. That's not even a pun. That's accurate. You can't get mad.
Nope. Nope, I'm not. But this whole thing, another interesting thing is, back in the previous episode, we had them testing out this serum, and sure enough, the first thing the zombie did was try and attack Murphy. And we get a payoff for that in this episode, in terms of as soon as Murphy is no longer able to control them, they start going after him specifically, and as we find out, seeking his blood. That's
weird.
An interesting development.
A little disconcerting.
Would you care to comment?
Yeah, they do. It's like they're like addicts. That's kind of how we decided to write them, and that they're addicts looking for their Murphy juice fix.
Murphy fix, yeah.
They just need a fix. Like they feel awesome. When they get it, it starts to wear off. They need more. And more and more and more. Yeah.
That, I think, is a very, very fitting, that's poetic justice,
Karma.
as Murphy was trying to say.
He tried so hard.
But that's really great poetic justice, considering that these guys have been pushing drugs this whole time, that they would themselves become addicts for what he has to offer. That is very, very interesting.
Yes. Yeah, I think an unintended side effect that obviously Curry didn't know about. But yeah.
And I think it's going to cause enough pause for Murphy to stop trying to build his own army.
Yeah.
For now.
Come after him. For now.
Backfired
I'm sure
on
he'll
me.
still try to perfect
Yes.
the Murphy juice.
Well, it seems like the all-natural, organic, direct from the source Murphy juice seems to work the best.
Yep.
Although I love the line of, because you controlled Cassandra so well. Just brought the whole operation down.
Yeah.
Wah, wah. Right. She's hammered that point in.
Although, speaking of character relationships, I did absolutely love that when it came time to administer the serum to Warren, that he refused to allow that to happen. And I really think that highlights how important they are. I mean, because technically for him, if he's thinking, oh, whatever, I can get my own army, I don't need them anymore. If that was all there was to it, then he wouldn't have cared. He wouldn't have tried to stop it. But the way he puts it is, I like you just the way you are. Whether he wants to admit it or not, they're important to him. And I like seeing the different ways that manifest throughout the season. And this was definitely one of them.
You can't travel together for an undetermined number of years without creating a really strong bond.
Oh, no, I think he could take or leave 10K at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
I think if any of the rest of them were
that's a
still
mutual
around, he
feeling.
would leave with varying level of regret. But with Warren still there, he's not going anywhere. We had the she's the boss of me thing, and if anything happens to her, that's it. That's the mission.
Yeah.
True.
Yep. Were there any other ways that you kind of wanted to highlight the relationship between the two of them and how that's constantly shifting and changing? And most of all, kind of the power struggle between them too, because a core component of that relationship is kind of trying to get the best of one another, but not necessarily in a vindictive way.
Yeah. Well, I really like the scene where all the Zeros are making their offerings to Murphy like he's a saint, and it's like, and he's not letting Warren off the hook in this situation. She doesn't get to cut to the head of the line. When she gets to the head of the line, she still has to make her offering before he'll talk to her. And so he's trying to play up that whole thing because he's enjoying being this saint that people are bowing down to and kissing his hand and all that kind of thing. Trying to enjoy it, trying to get Warren to, I don't know if it's so much like enjoy it along with him, but just kind of going, I think he's almost trying to sort of set it up that something's going to happen. I think it's a good plan. Eat, drink, and be merry. Let's try to make the most of this zombie apocalypse thing. I think is his attitude, and sort of in that moment, sort of trying to get Warren to go along on that ride, which of course she's not going to do, but I think that's his attempt. It's like, look, if we take the best advantage of all of this, we can have this whole like kingdom if we want.
I have a very short parade. Please don't rain on it.
Yeah.
Everything the light touches could be ours. It would be so much fun.
What about that shadowy place? That's where those zombie tunnels are. You must never go there.
That's where they generate energy.
That's oh goodness. Sorry guys.
Yep, the moth is back with a vengeance.
Sorry guys. It's very, very difficult. Anyway, so another thing that Abram brought up last week.
Oh God, there's two of them.
They've multiplied?
I think they multiplied.
No, it's the same one.
It's the
Same one. It's fine. Okay, I'm hallucinating.
Anyway, so one thing that Abram mentioned when he called into the show last week was that a very important theme that you really wanted to push for these 2 episodes for this 2-parter was the Wizard of Oz theme that ran throughout, because we've had a lot of different genre episodes, and so it's always fun when there's a particular theme. So what brought about the Wizard of Oz theme?
I think it started with this idea, if I'm remembering right, when we were in the writer's room, that when they got there, they would be sort of celebrated for delivering Murphy, but then put through this test. But then once they passed the test, that they would have this, big makeover. And the first reference for like a bunch of them getting a makeover kind of thing was the Wizard of Oz. And so I sort of built out from there. And then when we were, looking for locations, we found this winery where we shot the exterior. And it's just so green and beautiful and lush compared to this abandoned aluminum factory, which is what they come out of, where we shot. And we just had the moment, Abram had this moment where, you get Emilio opening the door and suddenly it's green and beautiful. And so, the more we looked, the more we found we could make these kind of Wizard of Oz references. And they are in this totally bizarre, different kind of world. And we kind of loved the joke that this drug cartel had it the most together over, like, the governments have collapsed, everyone else has collapsed. This cartel had it together, kept things orderly after a certain fashion, that people were trying to get across the border the other way in order to get into their sort of safe haven. And when they get there, it's just this green, so that's big,
like the Emerald City.
It's the Emerald City, and they get this makeover, but of course nothing is as it seems.
Nope.
I get it.
So there was some debate. Would Currian be the man behind the curtain, or would that be Murphy? Or because I guess Currian was left as a head at one point in this episode.
Murphy's Toto, right?
There was and we had a lot of people in the live chat last week ascribing different characters.
We did.
I'm gonna say Currian's probably closest to the wizard, since he promises one thing but can't actually deliver it. Says he has powers that he doesn't actually have. And I think his getting his head cut off is the moment when the curtain is drawn back and we see that it's just the man pulling the levers, trying to survive until Murphy comes to enact their nefarious plan.
Yep, which totally backfired on him.
Yes, it did.
Yep, so I do want to talk about this escape scene that follows, but first I want to talk to you guys really quickly about iTunes. Folks, thank you so much to everybody who's gone to iTunes to rate, leave a comment, and subscribe. We really appreciate hearing from you. Honestly, it's like the best part of my week when I read like a new iTunes review. So if you guys haven't already done so, please go to iTunes, rate, subscribe, leave a comment, and we love hearing from you guys in the live chat. We also want to hear from the guys who can't watch the show live. We also want to hear from you, so please be sure to leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Anywho, let's get back. So, speaking of the Wizard of Oz, I couldn't help but notice that there was a yellow brick road, sort of, not brick, but there was the way
Yellow concrete.
yellow concrete, but there was like the way the shot was lit when they're trying to make their escape. There were a lot of yellows, and that reflected on the floor below them, so it did look like the yellow brick road as they're trying to make their way out of the compound, and that just made me really happy.
Then again, watching this, and she goes, "And you were there, and you were there, and you were there." Yeah,
It was a lot of fun. I don't know, what was your guys' favorite Wizard of Oz reference?
oh man,
Oh gosh.
I wasn't specifically looking for them. I was just kind of
The
sitting
beard.
back eating
Doc's beard.
popcorn and enjoying
Doc's
it.
beard.
Doc's funky mojo. I love that. It's like with this thing that this team member brings, and this thing that this team member brings, and Doc's that crazy luck, funky mojo. Like, yep, we're going with it. We are going with
we
it.
can do it.
Doc's funky mojo.
He does have
I
funky
need
mojo.
that on a
does.
shirt. With like a bottle on it. Doc's funky mojo. Guaranteed to work or your money back.
Totally. Yeah.
He and Murphy should go into branding together. Yes. Product.
Absolutely.
Anywho, so they're trying to make this very daring escape from the compound as Lorena and her minions are after them, which, by the way, they still look stylish even when they're becoming zombified. Yeah. They still look real good.
The guy next to her in the white tuxedo and the mask, I started calling him Baron Samedi because I had no idea what his name was, but dang, was that an intimidating figure.
He's referred to in the script as the Silent Haitian.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
And that's almost entirely his role is to look intimidating.
Was he the one giving 10K the foot rub?
No. No.
That was amazing.
That
oh
one.
my God.
So, and the guy who played the Silent Haitian, Cal Norbert, is actually the husband of our hair stylist.
Oh.
We were looking for, tall, good-looking African-American man, and he was at the screening we were screening the first episode for the cast and crew, and I looked at him from across the room and went, "You, you."
How would you like to be on the show?
So he was super excited to be on the show, and he's like active duty Air Force, and so he had that whole like demeanor,
That presence,
presence, which was perfect for what we needed, and so we were very excited to have him, and he was very excited to be on the show, and it worked out great, and he had that fantastic mask,
Oh yeah,
too, and the suit and all that, yeah.
No, he looked fantastic on camera. They all did. There's something just about all of them walking in a straight line towards our heroes that's very intimidating. It's always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But they concoct a last minute plan in order to make their escape, and this is again why part 2 is such a good payoff, is that the zombies that were being turned into compost to generate heat for the complex, that's how they get their power, they were still there, and it was nice to go back to that moment because like that's a little bit of fringe horror when it's just mentioned like that in the first episode so casually, and then we come back to it and there we have it. We have our escape plan is to let them loose and to have them attack the people that are after them. And it really it was so weird because it's like two different brands of zombies running after each other and attacking one another.
they're triple locked doors like prison. That's a story for another time. Like, no, I want that noodle incident. Tell me that.
It's another story for another time, Grasshopper.
Yeah. Specifically, young Padawan.
One of our sort of inside jokes is that Doc has just had every single job you can possibly imagine, and so they're all going to come up at some point. That he's just had every random job.
Which
That's
makes sense
awesome.
that he would know all of these random little things.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, I used to be a this.
I used to be this. I used to do this. I was
watched
a prison
a lot of
warden at one point.
Did you finish this episode?
So they have that, and I will say that this is a nice little bit of, I don't want to call it foreshadowing because obviously we don't know what's coming down the way, but we see what's going to happen if a Murphy vaccine isn't perfected, if like an actual cure isn't created. This is going to be the end result, is that a weird blend of humanity and zombies and zombies are going to be at war. Even worse than the planet is already sort of at war between humans and zombies. They're like the possibility of a third faction is really unsettling. And knowing that Lucy's still out there and that Murphy's still running around, still not
Biting people.
really on one side or another, that's really unsettling to think about.
Well, and we had the Dr. Kurian speech about it will be your people that survive, like you. Like you
shall inherit
thanks,
the
buddy.
earth.
All right,
Yes,
sure.
the Ubermensch.
The mad side, the Bluebermensch.
The blue.
Boo.
I regret nothing.
She wins.
I'll allow. But so they make their escape and they come out of the hatch, and then we have the fight, as we mentioned before, between Vasquez and El Scorpion. And like, on the one hand, I know it's important for Vasquez to get closure and to get his revenge and to be able to move on with his life. On the other hand, I was like, just shoot him!
Guys are stupid.
If you allow El Scorpion to continue fighting, you might lose.
I just keep thinking of that one episode of Firefly. This is something the captain has to do on his own. No, Nate. Oh.
He needs help.
It was that kind of thing. Like, I'm sorry, you've been beaten to a bloody pulp and your insides are smoothie right now? Do you really think you're gonna win?
Pretty sure, like, it looked like they broke a couple ribs. He
At
was having
least.
trouble being upright.
He had to be carried out. Like, how are you okay. I've seen enough anime to let this go.
I don't know that he would have ever forgiven the group if he wasn't able to finish that on his terms. Like,
That's true.
It's pretty much, you know you shouldn't let him do this, but you also don't want to deal with it if you don't let him do this. So it's like, we'll step in if we have to.
And again, yeah, I hesitate to say no body, no death, but no body. It looked pretty final, but I don't know. He did claw his way through a zombie Iron Maiden, so
Somehow.
I wouldn't put anything past him.
Did we notice all the blood on his
way through a
face?
zombie.
Like,
Blood and pieces of, little pieces of zombie flesh.
Zombie for later.
little bits. But
Little snack.
You got a little something.
But
in
I
your
will
goatee.
say that regardless of whether or not El Scorpion is dead, because he's probably dead, Vasquez seems to have gotten closure on the situation. So where does that leave him? Do we think that he is now going to be firmly cemented within the group?
he's not already.
I think he's going to stay with the group, and he and Warren are going to fall in love and make babies.
And then
they'll
he'll
kiss.
die.
And then
Because
they'll
that
kiss.
is what happens when Warren falls in love with someone. It's like, nope,
Bad.
sorry.
And then they'll kiss.
Fight, 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 kiss, kiss,
And
kiss.
then we get to the kissing part.
Right before we get to the dying part.
Usually.
I'm telling you, it's a pattern on this show. It's a pattern.
You're a pattern.
I am. Actually, I'm wearing a Sala today, and it's lovely. But it's a pattern on this show.
I'm not entirely, because the whole time leading up to this two-parter, we were wary as to whether or not he was even telling the truth when he told the story.
I was not
about.
wary.
I was.
You're in kiss already. So, well, all right, fine. I was wary.
I was too.
We were wary. We were wary
This
about
side
him.
of the table thought he was a liar.
That being said, if he has allegiance to anybody in the group right now, it is Warren. And at one point, she says, we have to rescue him. He would do the same for any of us. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I think he would for you, but I don't necessarily know if he would stick his neck out for the rest of the group.
He's neutral good at best, and that leaves you a lot of leeway.
But at the very least, he really owes them now because he was able to get closure. Whether or not that relationship is more important than the bounty on Murphy's head has yet to be seen. I don't know. Thoughts?
Well, at this point, with that particular character relation, it could go either way, and I would not be surprised.
I don't know. I'm gonna refrain from
Kiss,
judgment
kiss, kiss.
on Vasquez.
All right, fair enough. But what this does, is there any other comments or things that we want to talk
El
about?
Caminos.
Yes. I knew I was forgetting something. So they make their getaway by hot wiring a bunch of really snazzy El Caminos as they drive down the road, shoot down one of the last drones, and make their way 2 miles away from California. It was just fantastic.
Of the 5. Okay.
You know, they're, yeah.
The 5 was remarkably clear.
That was very clear, yeah. So we're like, well, they need some kind of vehicle. I think we had maybe mentioned El Caminos at one point, but then, or maybe not, I can't remember. But then one night I'm driving around Spokane where we shoot. I'm stopped at a light when suddenly I'm surrounded by at least 4 or 5 El Caminos. There was like a local club, a rally, I don't know, but there I was surrounded by El Caminos, and I thought, El Caminos. Or as 10K says, El Camino.
El Camino. Those were real fancy.
That was very exciting because, we had them out in the back of the aluminum factory. I think one of them wasn't running. And then they ended up shooting that sequence later on. So I actually hadn't seen it until, I hadn't seen that sequence at all until, I think, last week. So I was very excited that all the Caminos were running and they were able to shoot that sequence so well. And a shout out to Daniel Schaefer, who came up with the moment of 10K leaning out of the car
So great.
and shooting the drone with one of his gears. So yeah, I thought it's my favorite thing.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to roll down into California, you might as well do it with style, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And they actually, when I saw the sequence, they had cut it to lowrider. So it's pretty awesome.
Oh, man.
But that is not a song our show can afford. So our composer did a bang up job of giving us the same kind of feeling.
Oh, no, it felt really cool.
Yeah.
Well, that just about wraps it up for this episode. Do we have any other comments about this episode before we move on to predictions?
No, I don't think so.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
That's a quick one this time around. So next episode, we have the group in California. We've made it. California, here we come. But it looks like Citizen Z has been hacked, and there's not necessarily any guarantee that just because they're in California, it doesn't necessarily look like they're safe.
Oh, I can see all of season 3 in California.
Oh, yeah.
Just going all over the dang place. I can't wait for the LA episodes.
Hollywood!
Actually shoot at home. That would be fun.
Yeah, it would be nice. How about you, Michelle?
I don't know specific predictions. I'm very excited that, it's a flashback episode, and I'm actually more excited that it's not entirely a flashback episode. There are some series that just go back and they're filming in a different period of time. And this is, excuse me, this is a recollection episode. So you're still in the present day, but they're actually sharing their backstories. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So sadly, there are only 2 episodes left this season, and that is both really exciting for what we have in store and at the same time really disconcerting because the last time we had a season finale, it was
the nuclear apocalypse.
Yeah. So I'm wondering how you guys are planning on topping that.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
That'll be interesting.
It's gonna be awesome.
Well, Jen,
You know what it'll be? The big one will finally hit. Now that they're in California.
Oh man, that would have been good too. But
Okay, it's not that.
But it could. I'm like, zombie earthquake.
Well, Jen, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you
to
for
chat
having me
with
again.
us
Yeah.
tonight. Do you have any upcoming projects that you want to talk about, or that you can talk about? I know a lot of it is under.
I have a short film called Blessed that I directed that's just finished and is heading out to festivals soon. We don't have any screenings yet, but I'll let you know when it comes
Please do.
out.
All right.
That sounds like so much fun. Where can people go if they want to keep up with you about your projects and find out when they can watch it?
Oh gosh, I don't have a website, but I should. But anytime I actually get around to putting one together, I will tweet it out from @Jen Elder.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Michelle, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Michelle_Cullen, because that is my name.
I'm Katie Cullen. You can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram at Kiaxet. That's Kiaxet. And on Snapchat at Kia Prime. I basically live here. Arrow mid-season finale this week. And I think we're also doing the Muppets.
Muppets.
Fantastic. I'm Megan. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TheMenguin. That's TheMengoin. I'm also on a bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz, including Ash vs. Evil Dead later on tonight. And I write articles for the movie Chick with 2 Ks. Be sure to check those out. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to everybody on the live chat. Thank you for everybody on the hashtag. We will see you all next time.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.